All right, hello and welcome to Answering Atheism, episode 24 here. Normally I try and wear a fancy shirt, but can't find it, so I'm just gonna wear a normal shirt. We got the tie, kind of just here. So, couple things before we start this time. Number one, I may have botched the video on the KKK. It may have been something post-flood, and I recalled something pre-flood. My bad if so. And then secondly, what did I have? Of course, now in the heat of the moment, you can't think of it. I ironed out something with one of my sources, which I'll be able to better go through it and pick out what I'm looking for. However, I may end up getting duplicates because of it, but who cares? All right. So, if you're not familiar with Answering Atheism, it's the only show I know of that we do this sort on YouTube, but there's probably more. There's probably worlds more. I just think it's kind of neat. I've had a lot of thoughts on this one in particular off cam, and I'll assume there's enough notes that I made before about it. But anyhow, what do we do? I like to give an introduction. What we do is, me on the Christian side of things, I try and find a atheist type comment or evolution type comment on the web, and whatever I think I want to tackle or try to tackle or think I could tackle, I bring it on here, and I spend a limited amount of time jotting down some notes, and then I try and give a talk based on it. I try and dismantle it, and if at all possible, counter it. I love these kind of discussions and trying to put myself in other people's shoes, in terms of how would I deal with this type of statement or this type of question or that, on this side of the fence, we've been told to be prepared to give an answer. So, and I don't even have my one verse I wanted to toss out before we get started here, but that's basically the basics of what we do with this series, Answering Atheism, AA. It was originally like AAA, kind of talkative, but anyhow, what was the one verse I wanted to shout out? If the foundation be destroyed, what can the righteous do? That's I think something along those lines is what I want to do. Toss out as a verse beforehand, but anyhow, let's get to the comment already. Good grief. Here's the comment. We are all descended and related to all living things. We're all related we're all descended and related to all living things. Interesting type comment. For a lack of belief, it seems there's belief. Well, I got a couple comments. So what he's saying is, going back enough, everything essentially goes back to a, whatever the case, single-celled, and then it goes from there. Everything from one initial life source of sorts. Creationists believe that too. It's just a different life source, eternal life source, infinite life source, and an intelligent life source, rather than just nature bringing forth life from non-living material. So I have the question, has such ever been observed? Has such ever been observed? Given the, secular evolutionary time span of things, tens, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years, tens, hundreds of millions of years, billions of years of all sorts of different things going on, never observed by man. So in terms of what this person knows versus what they believe, it is on the belief side. It is on the belief side. This is part of this person's faith, and people always get really iffy when you start to tread those waters, but oftentimes, they kind of want to be on their high horse a bit. But it's clearly the case. That's what they believe. That's what they believe. So they have faith that it is the case. They trust that it is the case. So no eyewitness testimony wasn't observed by man. Only up until recent would be observed by man, and certainly recorded, written down, really limits the world time span if you just go by written down. So anyhow, I don't know. I had several different thoughts on this type of a comment. I thought about Charles Darwin a bit, him going around to different places, Galapagos Islands and the finches, all that sort, and him with I think Lyell's geology stuff, longer term, versus Bible type stuff. So what Charles Darwin saw, observed, was finches that begat finches. Slightly different shaped or sized beak, but ultimately still a finch. But then if you combine that with long time frame, maybe given enough time, it can become something else, type of a deal. But he argued for macroevolution, but he observed microevolution, so it's quite a jump. It's kind of like the same thing this person is claiming. We're all descended and related to all living things. Man, oh man, does that have some big implications? Big implications, if true. Big implications. quite big implications. So, the birds, the finches, bore finches. And so he thought, going back enough with large amounts of time, the small change could essentially become big change. So, finch and banana, going back enough, related. They have a evolutionary tree of life, which is very interesting when you... there are so many thoughts, I'm telling you. There are so many thoughts. But it's very interesting, this tree of life, type of thing. You know, going from whatever initial life that supposedly came about, and then from everything from that versus everything from God. So you have this evolutionary tree of life, and then within the Bible you have, and I don't think it's no coincidence. But there early on in Genesis, you have the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and you have the tree of life. So, and then in Revelation, which is how things end off, and God fixing things up of sorts. Everything getting restored back to how it was pre-fall type of deal. A new heavens and new earth type of thing. And in there it mentions the tree of life. So I just find it very interesting that with the Bible you have a tree of life, and then what's come up with from our side of the fence would be a counterfeit tree of life of sorts. I don't think that's no coincidence. Satan is a counterfeiter. So I don't think it's no coincidence. But the unobserved here with such a claim, we're all descended and related to all living things. That's a macro evolution change. Only micro has been observed. And not only unobserved, but such time in the past and whatever events occurred are kind of unattainable and certainly irrepeatable. You know, as far as I'm aware, nobody has taken whatever kind of animal and changed it into another. So if observed, repeatable, are scientific, then this birds coming from non-birds, and birds and banana being related, if you go far back enough, then with that having been unobserved, unrecorded, not written down by an intelligence, irrepeatable, seems to be quite unscientific. So this is a big belief. This is a lot amount of faith to have a change of kinds. So dog kind, cat kind, you name it. And what else did I think up of? I thought something else up. There's something else here. I just forgot it when I was getting done with that spiel. Charles Darwin. What I also wanted to talk about within this is, some say Charles Darwin was Christian or whatever the case. That gets into kind of tricky territory because from this side of the fence, if you claim you are a Christian and then you become essentially non-Christian, whatever else you pick, or for whatever reason, that would be a false convert, because the Bible talks about if they were of us, they never would have left us, or something like that. They never would have gone out from us, something like that. So there's a lot of people who claim they were Christian, but they left for whatever reason. So they did not put God and His Word as the top highest authority. They're putting themselves as the highest authority. So that's what I find to be with that. And then we have the topic of, oh man, there's so many good topics that we could come up with, but biogenesis versus abiogenesis. Charles Darwin, he could only see face value. Type observations. When was that? 1830s, 50s, or 70s, or something like that. So, quite a number of years ago. They were not able to see the little stuff that's going on. All the time, every single second, tick tock, with all your cells and all the information and DNA, genetics, all the stuff that's going on, that's functioning due to information. And I think it was, when was DNA? Something like 1950s, I want to say. I don't know. I don't remember. I wasn't there. But we have to go based upon written record, eyewitness testimony, or whatever. If we can kind of create like some sort of parallel type thing, let's take we could use different things, like Morse code. Morse code has either a dot or a dash, a line. And if you do just two of those, a dot and a dash, that can have I don't know how many different meanings, how many different things within that kind of language that they've come up with. But that's just two bits to the language, I think. I might be mistaking that with ones and zeros for computer code, but that also is another good example. Computer code, ones and zeros. ones and zeros. If if the dashes with Morse code, if there were dots and dashes out in space, that would be interpreted. It would be all over the news, everywhere for like a week. It would be the top thing. People would be losing their minds. They would say it's evidence of alien intelligence. If there were the ones and zeros like in computer code, if that was found out in space, wherever, same thing. People would be losing it. Oh my goodness. Evidence of alien life, intelligence, life and intelligence. And the Morse code didn't make itself. The computer code didn't make itself. So when we get to like DNA, what is it? ATCG? Is it ATCG? ATCNG? That's four. That's four. Four letters instead of two. Two types. So with the broad, however much potential you can get out of two, you could get infinitely more information from four. So, and here we are, modern technology, computers, ones and zeros. Intelligence took a lot of intelligence, and certainly to keep upgrading them, making them better and better. But and it's one thing to have any information at all versus information which would imply intelligence. Versus functional information, which would seemingly, certainly demand an intelligence. How on earth could you have functional information? Not just information, but functional information. It having a use with whatever code you come up with. You know, right now, me speaking English, different things mean certain things. There's a function to the information. If it was just me saying things and none of it meant anything, then I don't know, but then you can't get anywhere. If all the information meant nothing and wasn't from an intelligence, it could have no function. It's one thing to have information. I think it's a whole nother thing to have functional information. Maybe it's all in the same. Maybe it's one and the same, both. Maybe it's all functional information. But I'm just trying to throw out a good argument here. We got everything with the information we have, all the stuff that is automatic, all the different systems we have within us going on. We don't even need to try and do this and that. It's happening on its own. You know, we could get into irreducible complexity if you you know, at some point, if you take away something, you know, heart, then one is toast. One is toast. You can't get anywhere from there. So, but anyhow, biogenesis versus abiogenesis. Biogenesis, life from life. Abiogenesis, life from non-life, aka matter just eventually, random chance for whatever reason, and at that specific point in time, coming up with the first whatever, and then eventually male and female versus for whatever reason, and for whatever reason, evolution not evolving the ability to just quite simply live forever, unless it has limits, seems to be so. But I think a lot of this is very important, and it's very important for as many sides of the fence to communicate as possible. That's the best thing we can do. The worst thing we can do is to not talk about the topics and dialogue and other people's views and stuff like that. So, so if the atheist side were true, and all are descended from a single life source, it, you know, if you compare the two, you know, all coming from a single life source, you know, different and yet there's similarity. That's the thing about counterfeit type deal. Has to kind of use whatever the case by default and modify the actual case, excuse me. But if all is descended, if Papal and banana are related, and especially if man and monkey are related to a common ancestor, both from common ancestor, whatever the case, then, and if God didn't exist, then think of the implications. Man would essentially be an animal. If man is an animal, why do we need rights? And why not act like animals? You know, I think there's pretty decent evidence that we're not. We are very much set apart, more so than any of the other animals are. But if people are animals, why not just act like animals? What's the marriage deal about? What's you know, why? Animals just, you know, have you seen squirrels out there? Goodness. What about, I don't know. There's a lot of good arguments for God, but I like the moral argument. I like the moral argument. What about rape? Is rape objectively morally wrong, or is it just subjective? You know, to someone it might be, to someone it might not be. Neither are true, and both are equally true. You know, it's wrong to lie. Why animals don't have morals? Animals don't have morals, so why are we coming up with morals? What about laws? Animals don't have laws. Why should we come up with laws? Chances are you're wearing clothes, hopefully. That is, the foundation for that is found in Genesis. The fall happened. They made fig leaves. They tried to do what they could to cover their guilt, their sin, and God slayed 2 animals and gave them the skins as clothes. So so clothes imply guilt, shame, this and that, sin, and this and that. So animals don't wear clothes, as far as I know. Maybe you'll see one weird case or two in your life where an animal might have taken off with someone's clothes for some reason. I don't know. What about theft? Is stealing wrong, or is stealing not objectively wrong? Do we want a world where folks hold the view where it is objectively wrong or just subjectively wrong? Would you want to live next to neighbors who just subjectively thought it was okay or not okay? All sorts of different things. What about cheating? Is cheating wrong on a test or this or that, or whatever the case? Where's the standard for good or bad? You know, if man is just animals, what's the standard of good? We essentially become the standard of good. And if you're being brutally honest, you should probably recognize you ain't good. This side of the fence, standard of good is God. God, who he is, and his nature. His natures, his attributes. That is the standard of good. Not this right here. This right here, no good in comparison. So we got so many things separating us from the animals. Marriage, clothes, work week, foundation in Genesis, creativity, made in the image of God. God creates the world, thus we are creative. Amazing creativity of man, just near infinite. You know, where does that come from versus the animals? Architecture, morals, science, logic, technology. I already said weak. And most importantly, rights. Speaking Americana right here. God-given rights. If we're just animals, then let's just do away with that old style rights of those horrible founding fathers, and they were white and this and that. They had slaves, and they believed in God. So let's just do away with the Constitution, Bill of Rights, all that stuff. Do you see the danger that I see? So, that right there is why I believe and hold that atheism, evolution, is dumb and dangerous and dumb, in my honest opinion. No offense. So, anyhow, that'll probably do us. I was worried that we weren't going to get to the 30-minute mark, but we did. We totally did. So, anyhow, that was episode 24 of Answering Atheism. And episode 25 is going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So, can't wait to see how that goes. So, anyhow, thank you very much for watching. Stay tuned for another episode sometime. We're still kicking. It's just we're busy. It would be nice to be able to cranking these out all day. Or not all day, every day. That would be nice, but there's just too much to it. So, I'm glad we got to the 30-minute mark, even though that's not a requirement. I might do one that's 30 seconds long. You never know. So, anyhow, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more. I will see you up ahead. As always, take care, cool.